The sound was a whip crack in the suffocating silence of the car. My palm screamed in protest, a fire that mirrored the one blazing in my chest. His head snapped to the side, the motion sharp and violent, a stark contrast to the easy grace he always carried. For a full 3 months, I had orbited this man, Connor. Euros Trade D offered him every piece of myself, only to be met with warm smiles, intoxicating kisses, and gifts that felt more like golden chains than tokens of affection. Every time I laid my heart bare, he would gently, maddeningly, push it away with the same 4 words: "Let's wait a bit." But tonight, something had shattered, and as he slowly turned his face back toward me, the amused, detached mask he always wore was gone. In its place was an expression I had never seen before. Euros, a raw, startling intensity that sent a tremor of fear and something dangerously like excitement right through me. In that moment, I knew the game had changed. I just didn't know if I had won or lost. We were parked outside my apartment, the engine of his polished obsidian car a low, purring hum that usually felt like a promise. Tonight, it felt like a cage. We Euros Trade D just come from another one of our perfectly curated Dazza Euros, a dimly lit Italian restaurant where the wine flowed too easily, followed by a meandering walk through a park where his hand had found mine, a casual gesture that sent my pulse into overdrive. Now, cocooned in the scent of expensive leather and his subtle cologne, the alcohol was singing in my veins, loosening the guards I kept stationed around my heart. I looked at him, at the chiseled line of his jaw catching the amber glow of the streetlights, and I decided this was it. One last time, I shifted closer, the space between us shrinking until I could feel the heat radiating from his body. My voice was a low murmur, thick with a hope I knew was foolish. "So, us," I began, my gaze locked on his. "When does it become real, Connor? When do we stop pretending?" He turned his head, and for a heart-stopping second, I thought this would be different. His dark eyes softened, a familiar warmth that had undone me time and time again. He reached out, his thumb and forefinger finding my cheek in a light pinch that was both affectionate and deeply condescending. "Hunter," he said, his voice as smooth and dark as aged whiskey. "Why Euros Trade re so endearing when you're tipsy?" My stomach plummeted. That look, that tonner Euros, it was the siren's call that had kept me shipwrecked on his shores for 90 excruciating days. I was braced for it. I was waiting for it. The yes that I felt I had earned through countless late-night texts that left me buzzing with anticipation, through kisses that stole the air from my lungs and left me dizzy with want, through the ridiculously expensive watch he Euros Trade declasped around my wrist just last week, a weight that suddenly felt like a manacle. But instead, the words came. The same damn line Euros Trade D heard on 4 separate, soul-crushing occasions. "Let's wait a bit. Okay?" The warmth in my chest didn't just turn to ice, it flash froze, shattering into a million tiny, jagged pieces. 4 confessions. 4 times I had offered him my vulnerability on a silver platter, only to have it politely declined with that vague, infuriatingly gentle excuse. I stared at him, really stared, taking in his perfectly calm expression, the slight, almost imperceptible quirk of his lips that suggested he was entertained by all this. Amused, as if my genuine, aching affection for him was nothing more than a diverting pastime, a game he was playing to see how long he could keep me on the line. "Are you being serious right now?" The question tore from my throat, sharper and colder than I intended. He had the audacity to raise a single, perfect eyebrow. "What?" I leaned in, my voice dropping to a harsh whisper, searching his face for a crack in the facade, for any sign that he wasn't just a beautiful, heartless machine toying with me. You've been feeding me that line for months, Connor. A circumflex euros, wait a bit. A circumflex euros trade, what are we waiting for? An act of God. Do you have a wife I don't euros trade T know about? A secret kid stashed away somewhere? Or am I just the fun little diversion you call when you are euros trade reboard? His brow furrowed slightly, a flicker of something, but that infuriating half-smile remained plastered on his face. Hunter, don't be dramatic. It's not like that. Then what is it like? I snapped, the sound echoing in the confined space. My hands were shaking, a tremor of pure, undiluted rage, and I clenched them into fists in my lap, my knuckles white. 3 months. 3 months of actively pursuing him, of letting myself fall deeper with every lingering touch, with every shared laugh over some stupid joke I made. 3 months of convincing myself that he felt it too, that the connection between us was real, only to slam headfirst into this same invisible wall, over and over again. I was done. You know what? Forget I said anything. My voice was hollow. I euros trade am not doing this anymore. My hand shot out, grabbing for the door handle, a desperate bid for escape. But his reflexes were faster. His hand clamped around my wrist, his grip firm, not painful, but unyielding. It stopped me cold. Where do you think you're going? He asked, his voice low, a teasing quality to it that made my blood boil. Away from you, I spat, yanking my arm with all my strength until it came free. I am not your toy, Connor. You don't get to keep me on a leash, dangling just out of reach while you figure out whatever the hell it is you're trying to figure out. His eyes narrowed, and for a fleeting moment, I thought he was finally going to fight, to argue, to give me something real. But I was too far gone to care. The wine was afire in my veins, my pride was in tatters on the floor of his luxury car, and my patience had been utterly annihilated. Before my brain could even register the decision, my body had already acted. My hand flew through the air. The slap landed hard across his cheek. The sound was a whip crack in the suffocating silence of the car. His head snapped to the side, and then there was nothing but the ringing in my ears and the searing sting in my palm. Hunter euros, he began, his voice different, strained. I cut him off, my words a torrent of pain and fury. Do you think this is a joke? Stringing me along, watching me make a fool of myself? I am done. I shoved the heavy car door open and stumbled out into the cool, indifferent night air. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs. I didn't look back as I slammed the door shut with a satisfying thud and marched toward the safety of my building, my steps fueled by rage. I could hear his engine idling behind me, a silent, powerful presence, but he didn't follow. Good. Let him sit there. Let him feel a fraction of the confusion he euros trade put me through. Inside my apartment, the flimsy lock clicking shut felt like a final seal. I kicked off my shoes, their clatter echoing in the empty space, and began to pace my small living room, my pulse still a runaway train. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Connor's name illuminated the screen, a beacon of my own foolishness. I glared at it, a fresh wave of anger washing over me, and with a decisive swipe, I blocked his number. Done. Over. No more. I yanked a dusty cardboard box from the back of my closet and began to purge my life of him. In went the gifts. The heavy, expensive watch. The buttery soft leather jacket. The designer sneakers I never asked for and felt ridiculous wearing. They were all going back to him tomorrow, a clear and undeniable message. I wasn't for sale. I collapsed onto my worn-out couch, the wine's pleasant buzz having curdled into a dull, throbbing headache. My eyes stung with unshed tears, and I rubbed them furiously, refusing to grant him the satisfaction of my sorrow. I knew deep down that tonight was my final gamble. I had told myself that if he turned me down one more time, I would walk away for good. But knowing something and feeling it are two vastly different things. My mind replayed the moment I first laid eyes on him, that achingly perfect face in the swirling chaos of the bar where I worked. I had fallen instantly, completely, and chased him with a single-minded determination of a fool. And for what? To become his temporary entertainment. I stalked to the fridge, grabbing a beer and cracking it open, the hiss a satisfying sound in the oppressive silence. I took a long, desperate swig, but the cold liquid did nothing to ease the tight, painful knot in my chest. I kept seeing his face, hearing his words, "Let's wait a bit." And then, that other image. The one that unsettled me more than anything, the way he had looked at me after the slap. His eyes, wide with shock, but also with something else, something that looked unnervingly like fascination. Like our trade D finally done something unexpected. What the hell was that? I shook my head, trying to dislodge the image. It didn't matter. It was over. I finished the beer, the metallic tang bitter on my tongue, and tossed the can into the sink. The clatter was jarringly loud. My phone remained dark and silent on the coffee table. No more buzzes. No more Connor. This was for the best. I trudged to my bedroom, shedding my clothes like a skin I no longer wanted to be in. As I crawled into bed, my gaze fell on the small, square packet on my nightstand. The condom I had slipped into my pocket earlier tonight, a pathetic symbol of my misplaced optimism. With a snort of self-loathing, I grabbed it and hurled it across the room, where it hit the wall with a soft, pathetic thud. Stupid. I was so stupid to think a man like him would ever want me the way I wanted him. I rolled onto my side, staring into the oppressive darkness of my room. My eyes burned again, but I squeezed them shut, a silent command to myself. I will not cry over him. I will not. Tomorrow, his things would be gone. Every digital connection to him would be severed. I would move on. Connor could find someone else to play his twisted games with. I was officially out of bounds. Sprawled on my couch the next morning, nursing a cup of black coffee that tasted like ash and a headache that felt like a personal punishment, my mind drifted back, against my will, to how this entire beautiful disaster had begun. 3 months ago, I was just Hunter, a broke college kid trying to make rent by picking up shifts at a pretentious downtown bar. It was one of those classy a cathedral of manufactured coolness with cocktails that cost more than my textbooks and music so loud you had to shout to be heard. Our trade D taken a job as a party host, which was a fancy title for being a paid chameleon. A professional friend in a ridiculously tight black shirt whose sole purpose was to flirt with customers and keep the river of money flowing. It was supposed to be easy money, and then I saw him. Connor. He was sitting at a corner table, surrounded by men in expensive suits, yet he looked completely apart from them, like heroes trade D been carved from a different, more refined stone. Sharp jaw, dark, perfectly styled hair, and eyes that seemed to absorb all the light in the room. He wasn't laughing or schmoozing like his companions. He was just sipping his drink, his gaze sweeping across the room with a look of regal boredom, as if he were a king observing the antics of his caught jesters. I was in the middle of pouring a round of fluorescent shots for a screaming, bachelorette party when our eyes met across the room. My stomach performed a series of violent gymnastics, and I nearly doused a bridesmaid in cheap vodka. A force I couldn't explain pulled me toward his table. I made my way over, a fresh drink on a small tray, and leaned in close, letting the scent of my cologne and the manufactured charm do their work. "On the house," I said, flashing him the smile that usually paid my bills. He took the glass, his fingers brushing against mine for a fleeting, electric second. "Thanks," was all he said, but his voice, a low baritone that hit me like a shot of top-shelf whiskey, resonated deep in my chest. There was no spark in his eyes, no returned flirtation, just polite, cool detachment. I walked away, my heart hammering against my ribs, already hopelessly snared. That was it. Our grand beginning. Me falling head over heels. Him barely registering my existence. I didn't Euros trade to see him again for weeks. The bar was a revolving door of forgettable faces, but his had been burned into my memory. I found myself scanning the crowds every night, a pathetic pang of disappointment hitting me each time he wasn't there. Then, one evening, I got roped into working a private high roller event. My manager promised a tip that could cover a month's rent if I just played along. So I spent the next few hours charming a table of obscenely drunk executives, matching them shot for shot just to keep up appearances. By the time I finally stumbled out the back exit into the grimy, trash-scented alley, I was buzzing, my head swimming from the alcohol. I was still in my work get-up, skin-tight pants, and smudged eyeliner from the ridiculous rockstar theme their Euros trade forced on me. That's when trouble, as it often does, found me. A group of guys, probably seeing the eyeliner and the tipsy sway in my walk and thinking I was an easy target, began to circle me like vultures. "Hey there, pretty boy," one of them sneered, stepping into my personal space, his breath a foul mix of stale beer and cigarettes. I wasn't in the mood. "Back off," I said, trying to square my shoulders and look more intimidating than I felt. They just laughed, closing the distance. My survival instincts kicked in, and I swung. My fist connected with a satisfying crunch, and one of them went down. But there were four more. A fist slammed into my jaw, sending a burst of stars across my vision. My arm scraped against the rough brick wall as I staggered back, bleeding and bracing for the inevitable beating. And then, a voice, smooth and unruffled, sliced through the panic. "Need a hand?" I looked up, my vision blurry, and saw him. Connor. He was leaning against the far alley wall, as casual as if he were waiting for a taxi, looking like he Euros trade just stepped out of a boardroom meeting. The thugs froze, sizing him up. He didn't move a muscle, didn't raise his voice. He just held their gaze with that unnerving stillness, and one by one, they scattered like roaches when the lights come on. I was panting, my head spinning, blood trickling from a cut on my arm, but I managed a shaky grin. "My hero," I said, the words laced with a sarcasm I didn't entirely feel. And then, because my brain-to-mouth filter had been dissolved by alcohol, I decided to push my luck. I let my knees buckle dramatically, pitching forward toward him. He caught me without a flicker of surprise, one strong arm wrapping around me, steadying me against his chest. Holy hell, the man was solid muscle. I pressed my palm flat against his pec, feigning the need for balance, and smirked up at him. "Nice catch." A low, warm chuckle rumbled in his chest. "You're not even dizzy, are you?" "Nope," I said, my voice dropping as I met his eyes. "But I'm not complaining." He shook his head, a genuine smile finally reaching his eyes, and helped me over to a nearby bench. He disappeared for a moment and returned with a first aid kit, explaining he knew the bar owner. He began to clean the cut on my arm, his touch surprisingly gentle, his focus absolute. I couldn't stop staring at his face, the way his brows furrowed in concentration. "Hold still," he murmured, dabbing at the wound with an antiseptic wipe that stung like hell. I hissed in pain, my hand instinctively shooting out to grab his wrist. He paused his work and looked up, his dark eyes meeting mine, and I swear my heart stopped beating for a second. "You okay?" he asked, his voice soft. "Yeah," I lied, my own voice rough with an emotion I couldn't name. "Just euros, you're too good at this." He laughed, a real, unguarded laugh this time, and it hit me with more force than the punch I'd taken earlier. "Are you always this forward?" he asked, skillfully taping a bandage over the cut. "Only when I see something I like," I shot back, holding his gaze, challenging him. His smile faltered for just a heartbeat, and I thought I'd gone too far. But then he asked, "What's your name?" "Hunter," I said. "And you're Connor?" He stood, brushing off his hands. "You good to get home?" I didn't want him to leave. The thought was a sudden, sharp pang. "Not yet. How about a drink? My treat, you know, for saving my ass." He raised an eyebrow, a hint of that amusement returning. "You sure you're not concussed?" "Positive," I said, leaning closer, my voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Come on, one drink. I owe you." He studied me for a long moment, as if he were trying to solve a complex puzzle, then gave a slow nod. "Fine, one drink." And that's how it all started. One drink turned into him driving me home. That led to a text the next day asking if I was okay. I played it cool, sending back a brazy reply, but inside I was a chaotic mess of excitement. A week later, we met again, this time at a quieter place. I was a nervous wreck, overthinking every word, but he was surprisingly easy to talk to, all dry humor and sharp intelligence. I kissed him that night. It was just a quick, impulsive brush of lips during a stupid drinking game, but he didn't pull away. My heart was pounding out a frantic rhythm, but he just looked at me with that amused expression and said, "That's your move, huh?" I laughed, embarrassed but secretly thrilled. After that, we fell into a routine: dinners, late-night gaming sessions at his apartment, him showing up at the bar just before closing to drive me home when my shifts ran late. He was busy, some high-powered consultant with a schedule that would make most people weep, but he always made time for me. I thought it meant something. I let myself believe he felt it, too. Now, staring at the cracks in my ceiling, the memory had soured, curdled into something bitter. All those moments of euros, the stolen kisses, the thoughtful gifts, the way his eyes would crinkle when he laughed at my stupid jokes of euros, were they all just part of the game? Was he just humoring me, enjoying the ego boost of my relentless affection? I rolled over, a tightness gripping my chest. I was a complete and utter idiot for thinking a guy like Connor would ever want someone like me for real. I closed my eyes, trying to shut out the ache, but all I could see was his face. That infuriatingly perfect smile, and the strange, unreadable look in his eyes after I slapped him. The look that said I had, finally, gotten his full and undivided attention. I woke up to a pounding headache and the bitter taste of regret in my mouth. A glance at my phone revealed 3 missed calls from a number I didn't Eurostrade recognize, but I knew it was him. I groaned, tossing the phone onto the rumpled sheets. The events of the night before replayed in my head on a torturous loop, his infuriatingly calm wait a bit. The shocking sting of my own hand against his skin, the way I'd stormed out like a protagonist in a bad drama. I meant every word of it. I was done. I grabbed my phone, found the unknown number in my call log, and blocked it without a second thought. My thumb hovered over the final confirmation, a moment of hesitation, before I pressed down firmly. Screw him. I dragged myself to the kitchen, chugging water straight from the tap as if I could drown the hangover and the memories along with it. The cardboard box, filled with Kenori Euros Trade-S gifts, sat on my counter like a monument to my foolishness. The watch, the jacket, the sneakers, Euros, all of it mocking me. I arranged for a courier to pick up the box and deliver it to his office address, the one Euros Trade-D shamelessly looked up weeks ago. No note, no final, dramatic explanation. He was smart. He Euros Trade-D get the message. I was halfway through a second glass of water when my phone rang again. Another unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. It immediately rang back. And again. Fine, I muttered, my patience worn thin, and swiped to answer. What? Hunter? Kenori Euros Trade-S voice, calm and steady. Too calm. It set my teeth on edge. You blocked me. Yeah, I said, my voice flat as I leaned against the counter. Figured you are Euros Trade-D, take the hint. I did, he replied, a strange note in his voice. Can we talk about last night? Nope. I kept my tone clipped, emotionless. You had 3 months of chances to talk. Euros Trade am done chasing you. Hunter, come on. You slapped me and walked out. I don't think I'm the bad guy here. A bitter, humorless laugh escaped my lips. You're not. Then what are you, Connor? Because from where I'm standing, Euros Trade-V been throwing myself at you for months, and all I get is a pat on the head and a circumflex. Euros, wait a bit. A circumflex. Euros Trade am not your damn puppy you can just string along. He was silent for a moment, the quiet stretching between us. Then, Euros Trade am outside your place. Let me in. My stomach clenched into a hard knot. You're what? I'm here. Let's talk this out face to face. I crept over to the window, peering through a crack in the blinds. Sure enough, his black car was parked across the street, a silent, predatory shape in the morning light. My heart gave a traitorous little leap, but I savagely crushed it. Go home, Connor. I meant what I said last night. Hunter. I hung up. I switched my phone to silent and tossed it onto the couch. I turned off the lights in my apartment, plunging the room into shadow. I would not do this. I would not let him use that calm, reasonable voice and that stupidly handsome face to charm his way back in. I stood by the window, a silent sentinel, watching his car for far longer than I would ever admit. He didn't move. An hour passed, then another. He was still there. By the time midnight rolled around, my eyes were heavy with exhaustion. I checked one last time, and his car was finally gone. Good riddance. The next morning, I was up at the crack of dawn for an early class, my head still throbbing. I deliberately took the long way out of my building, forcing myself to walk past the spot where his car had been parked for hours. And then something on the pavement caught my eye. A small pile of crushed cigarette butts next to a trash can. Connor didn't smoke. At least, I had never, ever seen him smoke. I paused, staring down at them, a strange, unwelcome pain echoing in my chest. Had he really sat out there all night, so stressed that he Euros Trade-D picked up a habit he didn't have? I shook my head, disgusted with myself. It didn't matter. I was over it. Later that day, I met my friend Evan at a greasy spoon diner near campus. He was a senior, which in his mind gave him the right to dispense unsolicited life advice. We slid into a worn vinyl booth, and he was already grinning like he knew something I didn't. "So," he said, snagging a French fry from my plate, "what's the latest with Mystery Man? You still mooning over that corporate suit?" I stabbed at my burger with unnecessary force. "There is no latest. We're done." Ivarner Eurostrade's eyebrows shot into his hairline. "Done as in you finally wore him down and he committed, or done as in you finally told him to screw off?" I took a huge bite of my burger, chewing pointedly and avoiding his gaze. He leaned back, letting out a low whistle. "Damn, Hunter. What did he do? Finally ghost you for real?" I shrugged, pushing my food around the plate. "Worse. He just kept me hanging. I'm not playing his games anymore." Evan shook his head, grabbing another one of my fries. "Told you, man. Ivarner Eurostrade an open book with these guys. You don't just wear your heart on your sleeve, you wear it on a giant billboard with flashing neon lights. Remember Aaron?" I physically grimaced at the name. Aaron, my ex from freshman year, the one who had turned my life into a campus-wide soap opera of lies and humiliation. "Don't start, Evan. I'm just saying," he pressed on, oblivious to my discomfort. "You fall, and you fall hard, and guys like that, guys like Aaron or this new Connor dude, they see that raw honesty and they either run from it or they exploit it. You've got to learn to play it cooler." "I don't do cool," I muttered, pushing my plate away, my appetite gone. "I do honest. If someone can't handle that, it's their problem, not mine." Evan snorted. "Honest? Dude, you're a walking invitation that says please, break my heart. Aaron screwed you over 6 ways from Sunday, and you still haven't learned to build some walls. You're lucky you got out of that whole mess with your sanity intact." My jaw clenched. Aaron had been a catastrophe. He Eurostrade spread vicious rumors, photoshopped compromising pictures of me, and managed to make half the campus believe I was some kind of manipulative predator. The fallout was so bad I'd taken a whole semester off school, just to escape the whispers and the stares. "That's not why I left," I lied, the words tasting like acid. "I just needed a break." "Sure," Evan said, clearly not buying it for a second. "But you see why I'm worried, right? You dive in headfirst without checking if there's water in the pool. And guys like Connor, they'll let you smash your head on the concrete and then act surprised." I rolled my eyes, trying to project an indifference I didn't feel. "Thanks for the pep talk, Dr. Phil." He grinned, his expression softening. "Just looking out for you, man." "So what's the plan? You actually going to block this guy and move on?" "Already did," I said, but even to my own ears, my voice lacked conviction. I kept seeing that little pile of cigarette butts, wondering if Connor had been just as rattled by our fight as I was. "It doesn't matter," I told myself firmly. "I'm not going back." Evan clapped me on the shoulder, seemingly satisfied. "Good. Plenty of other emotionally available fish in the sea, man. You'll find someone who doesn't make you resort to physical violence." I forced a laugh, but it felt hollow and brittle. After we split the bill, I walked home, the crisp air doing nothing to clear the fog in my head. Evan's words circled around me like vultures. Was I too easy? Too desperate? I had always thought being real, being unapologetically myself, was a strength. But maybe he was right. Maybe I was just setting myself up to get burned over and over again. I unlocked my apartment door, kicking it shut behind me. The box of Tenoriuro's trade things was gone, picked up by the courier. My phone was still silent. No new calls from unknown numbers, no texts. I should have felt a profound sense of relief, of freedom. Instead, there was just a tight, heavy knot in my gut that refused to loosen. I flopped onto the couch, staring at the ceiling, my own personal confessional. I kept telling myself I was done, that this was the end. But a small, stupid, treacherous part of me couldn't stop wondering what Connor had wanted to say. Why he had sat outside my apartment for hours, smoking cigarettes he didn't smoke. I shoved the thought away with violent force. He had his chance. He had hundreds of them. I was not his game anymore. I was halfway through a family-sized bag of potato chips, embracing a life of self-pity and carbs, when my apartment buzzer shrieked. It had been 2 full days since I'd sent Connor's things back, 2 days of trying to scrub him from my brain. The buzzer blared again, sharp and insistent. With a groan, I dragged myself off the couch and pressed the talk button on the intercom. "Who is it?" I snapped. "Hunter, it's me." Tenoriuro's trade's voice, crackling through the cheap speaker, was calm but firm, leaving no room for argument. "Let me in." My stomach performed a sickening lurch. "Go away, Connor. I told you we're done." 5 minutes, he said, his voice unwavering. "That's all I'm asking. Then I'll leave you alone for good." I clenched my jaw, every instinct screaming at me to ignore him. But the image of him standing down there on the street, probably looking infuriatingly perfect and resolute, made my own resolve feel flimsy as paper. Against my better judgment, I slammed my thumb on the button to buzz him in. A minute later, my apartment door swung open, and there he was. He wore a dark jacket. His hair was slightly messy, as if he'd been running his hands through it, and his eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that felt like a physical force. "You've got 4 minutes, I said, crossing my arms over my chest and leaning against the wall, creating a physical barrier. "Torque." He stepped inside, closing the door behind him with a soft, final click. "You sent my things back." "Yeah," I said, my glare unwavering. "I didn't want your pity gifts." "They weren't pity," he said, his voice low and serious. "They were for you, because I wanted you to have them." I let out a sharp, incredulous scoff. "Right, just like you wanted to keep me dangling on a string. Tenoriuro's trade not falling for it." He took a deliberate step closer, and I instinctively tensed, my back pressing hard against the cool wall. "Hunter, I'm not playing games. I messed up, okay? I should have been clearer with you." "Clearer?" A laugh, sharp and bitter, erupted from me. "You've had 3 months to be clear. 4 confessions, Connor. 4, and every single time, it was the same vague dismissal. I'm not an idiot." His jaw tightened, but his gaze didn't waver from mine. "I know you're not. That's why I am here now." I rolled my eyes, the gesture dripping with sarcasm. "What? To offer another half-hearted apology? Save it. I don't need your euros." He moved faster than I could have anticipated. In 2 quick strides, he closed the remaining distance between us. His hands shot out, grabbing my wrists and pinning them to the wall on either side of my head. Before I could process what was happening, before I could even draw a breath to protest, his mouth crashed down on mine. It wasn't a gentle kiss. It was hard, desperate, and punishing. My brain short-circuited. For a split second, all my anger, all my hurt, was drowned out by the shocking, undeniable heat of his mouth on mine. Then reality slammed back into me, and with a surge of adrenaline, I shoved him back, my chest heaving. What the hell was that? I snapped, wiping my mouth with the back of my hand as if I could erase the tingling sensation he'd left behind. I hated that I could still feel it. He was breathing hard, his eyes darker and wilder than I had ever seen them. "You slapped me," he said, his voice rough, raw. "And for the past 2 days, I haven't been able to stop thinking about it." I just stared at him, blinking. "What? You heard me," he said, stepping closer again, invading my space. "You were furious. You were real. You didn't hold back or play some game. That Slarper Euros, it woke me up." My mind was scrambling, trying to make sense of his words. "So what? You're into me now because I hit you? That's seriously messed up, Connor." He let out a short, sharp laugh, devoid of humor. "No, I was always into you, but I'm not good at this, Hunter. I don't do feelings. Not quickly, anyway. I needed time. I was trying to figure out what we Euros could be." I shook my head, finally wrenching my wrists from his loosened grip. "You don't get to figure that out on your own time while I'm spilling my guts on the floor for you. You knew how I felt. You let me believe you cared, and then you brushed me off like I was nothing." "You are not nothing," he said, his voice dropping, becoming intense. "You're the absolute opposite of nothing. That's why I kept saying to wait, because for the first time in a long time, this felt like something I didn't want to screw up." I snorted, stepping past him to put some much-needed distance between us. "Well, you did a great job so far." For the first time since I'd known him, he looked genuinely frustrated, running a hand through his perfectly styled hair and messing it up further. "Look, I know our Euros trade am not perfect. I like you, Hunter, a lot. But I don't really know you, not in the ways that count. And you definitely don't know me. We've been doing this dance, but it's all been on the surface. I want more than that." I spun around to face him, glaring. "You want more? You could have just said that instead of jerking me around for 3 months. I'm not a mind reader." "I know," he said, his voice softer now. "I know. I'm trying to fix it. Let me." I crossed my arms again, a shield against the sincerity I saw in his eyes. My anger was still simmering, but it was being tempered by a confusing flicker of something else. "Why should I?" "So you can waste another 3 months of my life." "No," he said, closing the distance once more, his presence overwhelming. "Because I'm done waiting. I want to try this. For real, but I need you to meet me halfway." I laughed, the sound incredulous. "Halfway? Our Euros trade V been all the way in since day one. You war Euros trade re the one war Euros trade S been standing on the other side of the damn country." A small, infuriating smirk touched his lips. "Yeah, I noticed. You're not exactly subtle, are you?" "Screw you," I said, but the words had no heat behind them. That smirk was doing things to my resolve, and I hated myself for it. He stepped even closer, his voice dropping to a low murmur that vibrated through me. "Let me make it up to you. Just give me one chance to show you I'm serious." I should have kicked him out. I should have told him to go to hell and take his confusing, intoxicating presence with him. But he was looking at me like I was the only thing in the room, the only thing that mattered, and my defenses were crumbling into dust. "You're sleeping on the couch," I said finally, the words a surrender. I pointed a shaky finger toward the lumpy sofa in the corner of my living room. "And don't think for a second that this means we're okay. Because we're not." He nodded, that damnable smirk still playing on his lips. "Fair enough. The couch it is." I stalked over to the closet, grabbed a spare blanket, and threw it at him. "Don't get comfortable. You are on incredibly thin ice." "Noted," he said, catching the blanket with ease. "But I'm not going anywhere." I rolled my eyes and retreated to my bedroom, shutting the door with more force than was strictly necessary. My heart was pounding a frantic, uneven rhythm, and I was furious with myself for letting him in euros literally and figuratively. I flopped onto my bed, staring at the ceiling. He was out there, on my couch, probably looking smug, and I was already regretting everything. But there was a tiny, treacherous part of me, buried deep beneath the layers of anger and hurt, that was curious. What did he mean, for real? And why did that angry, desperate kiss feel more honest than anything else that had passed between us? I pulled the covers over my head, trying to block out the image of his stupidly handsome face. He had one chance to prove he wasn't completely full of it. And if he blew it, I was done, for good this time. But as I drifted into an uneasy sleep, I couldn't shake the terrifying feeling that I had just opened a door that I would never be able to close again.